We're in Cabo.
We are.
How are you liking the trip so far?
I like a trip like this once a year. I like to get away, disconnect, see how the team performs without me.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I've told you this multiple times already, but at the size of a company that we are, we don't need a lot of ideas. We need more execution. So to
Mm-hmm.
me, if I took 3 or 4 of these trips a year, I would be bringing in too many ideas. I'd be throwing the business off. I'd be changing things day to day almost. So
Yeah.
to me, a trip once a year is great.
Well, let's go back to the topic, which is proper air.
Hmm.
So, as the founder of the company, can you tell us like what your day to day looks like? I know you wear like a ton of different hats. So,
Yeah, let's break down an entire week. So I wake up at 5:30. Ideally, I want to get started with work at 6. So I'm not like go to the gym in the morning kind of guy. I like to go right after it. And the way that I break down my mornings is there's 4 buckets. So I have, and it depends on what the business needs, right? That's really how I break down the first 3 hours of work in the morning. But if we're recruiting, I would do something in that department, like perhaps doing outreach on it, Indeed or LinkedIn or anything in the morning. So when candidates start waking up, etc., they already have like messages in their inbox. So that's one bucket. And then if we're low on leads, which I haven't had to step into this role in a little bit, but if we're low on leads or we need to do homework, like a salesperson got on the phone, they found out there's an extra heir, they need to find that person's phone number. That's what we consider homework. Then that's a whole nother bucket, right? And then lastly, the 2 other buckets would be I'm trying to remember what are the last 2 buckets that I spend time in the mornings.
in the morning,
Yeah, it's marketing and homework. It's sales, which I can't start at 6, but realistically I sometimes do start at 7:38.
yeah.
That's the third bucket. And then lastly, I'm trying to remember what's the last one. Hmm.
I mean, emails, like kind of taking
Okay,
a
no,
look
I
at
just
what,
delivery. So delivery would be the fourth bucket. If, for example, our TCs,
yeah,
if I see that deals are very like just stuck
yeah.
behind and that like things aren't getting pushed along, I will either send emails out to attorneys or the TCs, or I'll take a look at something from a different angle. I'll talk to
Mm-hmm.
title, and I'll just do that in the morning. So delivery, sales, marketing slash homework, and then recruiting on the front side. So that's like the first 3 hours of my day, and then I really start working inside the business from 9 to like 6, 7, 8 p.m. at night.
What does that mean? Like inside the business?
So inside the business, my key role is sales, right? So I'll manage
Mm-hmm.
whatever management slots I have for the team. I'll do that, and then I'll just be selling majority of the day. So that means following up with leads, making offers, having process calls, etc.
Now, is doing sales something you see yourself doing long term in the company?
No, no, but there's a couple mistakes that I made my first go around in the first business. For one, I stepped out of sales too fast, so
Okay.
I don't want to remake that same mistake. And then now that I understand offers a lot better, I don't want to leave sales until we have our offer down packed, and then I could just tell somebody else this is exactly how we structured the offer with the customer, and this is how you would do it, right? So having sales scripts for them, the training, all that stuff down packed, and then at that point it would make sense for me to step out of sales. Also, as a founder, it would cost a lot for me to have a salesperson. That
Yeah,
would probably be the
100%.
most costly expense to the business. So, when you're small, obviously profit is a big thing. That's how you stay alive. And so I don't pay myself as a closer. I just pay myself a standard salary. It wouldn't make sense for me to have a closer when I still haven't had all these things down packed yet.
So you said in the first go around you moved out of sales too quickly. Like
Mm-hmm.
what did that mean? Or how did that look?
Yeah. I had my best quarter in sales. I did over $1 million myself in sales. And the quarter after that, I said, okay, I mastered this. Let me just have somebody take over my set of customers and they can just start doing the closings, right? I didn't even move up to sales manager, which is the next step up, right? I gave the role of sales to my best closer,
Mm-hmm.
and I also made him manager, which is
Okay.
a huge mistake. I completely got out of sales, and then it makes sense why we started plummeting,
Yeah.
right?
So then what was your role in the business at that point?
I consider myself the visionary. So I was sitting in a room coming up with a whole bunch of visions and ideas that the company could do. Back to my point from earlier, the smaller the company is, you don't need to idolize. You just have to execute. So yeah, that's a huge mistake I made.
So you have no, as of 2026, you would say no plans on leaving your sales role.
So it depends. That's not the constraint of the company right now. Right
Mm-hmm.
now, the constraint is hiring an attorney and making sure that we can close on more than we're acquiring on the front side.
Okay.
Once I see that mix of things happening where we're starting to close more transactions than I'm able to get under contract, then that to me is a sign that we're heading in the right direction. Right now, if I were to get out of sales to put somebody in a closing seat, I'm not tackling the constraint of the company. Yeah. Right? So meanwhile I am tackling the constraint, what am I doing? I'm structuring the offer, right? Seeing how I can puzzle it together so that it can make more sense financially to the model of the business moving forward, and make sure that every single salesperson that we have performs, which is big. You don't want to promote somebody to being a closer when they're not performing in their current role. Yeah. Right. So.
Well, I know you mentioned that's not your main focus and that tackling the constraint is. How did you even find out what the constraint of the company was?
Well, if we had a standard wholesale company, realistically, deals would be closing in 60 to 90 days.
Yeah.
Right? So right now, we're closing less than 2 deals a month. So I take a look at how many total deals we have in the pipeline. That's 34, right? 2 divided by 34, that means we have 17 months worth of inventory. That's a long time. Like we have 17 months worth of inventory, but we don't even have enough cash to stay alive that long.
Yeah.
So that right there tells me that we need to somehow get that down to 60 to 90 days.
Yeah.
Right. So the first thing that we had to do in that department was, as you know, bring in extra TCs because we just weren't pushing things along enough to the attorney. And now that we've done that, the attorney is at his breaking point.
Yeah.
They're saying they can't handle the amount of
wow.
They can't handle the amount of
volume.
The amount of volume that we're giving them. And so that's clearly now the constraint, and you have to bring somebody in-house who just focuses on only our cases.
Got it. I know you mentioned in-house, so I know you just moved into an office this year. How does that feel, I guess, as a business owner? Has it changed anything for you?
Yeah, and it took me some time to do so. I could have probably gotten an office 2 years ago, and I've had people like coaches and people throughout the years ask me that, like, why don't we have an office? But that entire time I was investing that whatever the office would have costed, $5, $6, $7,000, I was reinvesting that in either into the business or into education for me. To me, I didn't want to scale something that wasn't a good model, that wasn't profitable, right? And I didn't want to start selling other people on the idea of something that I first didn't believe in. So it took us probably 2.5 years to move into an office, but it happened at the best time, and now we have an office 3 minutes away from where I live.
Yeah.
So we went a little bit more expensive, but people feel good when they walk in there. Yeah, right? It's a Class A building. There's only 6 tenants. And yeah, overall, a couple lessons that I learned about the office too. From the first go around, I invested. I would invest into offices where perhaps they're a little bit further than I wanted to drive. They're a little bit cheaper, but they didn't have that same feeling of coming into a Class A building. Yeah. Now we're closer, right? Now we're much more expensive, but you have space to grow into, the size that we want to get to.
That's like a good mindset to have.
Yeah.
But what exactly was that thing that made you realize, okay, now's the time?
We needed to bring in a second follow-up specialist, and we had already hired a lot of VAs for that role. And so I wanted to test an in-house person. I felt like we were going to be able to get more performance out of the individual if they're next to me, because no matter how much I'm training somebody in sales, if they only get me for 30 minutes a day compared to somebody who's next to me for 10 hours, they're just going to absorb a lot more. So that's what I wanted to test out, and for that reason, we had to get an office.
Yeah. Well, how has that experience overall been with follow-up specialists? Have you had any luck?
Well, the first person was rough. So we hired the first person prior to us moving in. So They were probably on the team for like 2 weeks prior to moving into the office. And then once they moved into the office, very quickly, it reminded me of a couple of things that I had forgotten about. So like, things like showing up early, staying in later, buying into the culture, putting in extra reps, right? Like these are things very quickly that I realized that person didn't have. But now I know moving forward, right? It reminded me of like, okay, now you have an in-office team. What are the things you want? You want the people getting early to an office. You want them staying in later. All the things that I do, right? Yeah. You want them getting in extra reps, setting time apart to train with you, etc. So, yeah, few reminders more than lessons.
What would you say is the culture that you want to demonstrate to the team and you want everybody who joins the team to have?
Interesting question. Ideally, I would want everybody to be of the mindset that they, number one, have something to prove to themselves and they want to accomplish something big. Because if you have somebody who doesn't want to accomplish something big, then they're not going to be able to move up with the company to the next stage.
Well, what traits have you seen that people that want to do something big, like what do they come with? What traits do they have from your experience?
They haven't been able to fit into other cultures for that reason. So they'll come from other companies where working extra, coming in on the weekends was deemed as a thing that they don't do. That's one.
Well, what made you have that need to or desire to build something, create something big?
If you as a founder don't want to create something big, it's hard for other people to align their visions with yours. Like if I only wanted to have $1 million company and you wanted to be a millionaire, it would be impossible for you to be a millionaire inside a company that's only doing $1 million in revenue. 100%. So for me, I felt like I always had to want more for first myself, and that if I can put that within a vision of a company where it attracts others to fit their vision inside of it, then that to me would be a way to attract talent.
It's a good answer, but do you think that there's something specific that made you want more, is what I'm saying? Because some people are very content with, I guess, smaller things or working within $1 million company and not creating.
I think the first decade of my life when I played basketball, once I was done with it, I had the feeling of I left it all out there. And so if I can just have that feeling again 40 years from now when I'm done with business or whenever, I'm gone, to me that would be a life worth living. So like with basketball, I left it all out on the court. And with business, I want to leave it all out in the game, right? Yeah. So to me, it just doesn't make sense to go small. Yeah. Like basketball, I wanted to win state championships. Now I'd love to either go public or create something massive or creates a ton of wealth for everybody.
So then what would you say is your overall goal with ProperHeir?
Goal in what sense?
Goal in how big the company gets.
I don't even love that question. I'll tell you what. I could throw out a super cliche answer. Oh, we want to do 100 billion, and that sounds cute. Who the fuck cares? Like, it sounds cliche. To me, I just don't want to stop. That's it. Period. I can throw out a huge number that sounds sexy to the folks watching this, but that doesn't do anything for anybody. It's just you're misrepresenting yourself when you throw out all these fake numbers that just sound cute, but like you don't even know the pain that comes with that. Yeah. To me, all I know is that I want to continue playing the game. I want to do this long term, and that's it. And I want to grow.
I love that answer. So, what would you say is your goal, I guess, going into 2026? Like your focus. What would be top of mind for you?
Top of mind is getting a badass attorney in house. Aside from that, once we're able to get the people that we have in our sales team to perform, right, we'll be able to push enough through the system where then 6 months from now I can revisit where the company is and perhaps get myself out of sales to really become like a full-on manager of all departments. So that those are probably like the main two things: attorney in-house, get myself out of sales if all goes well this upcoming year.
And what would you say was your main focus of 2025, and were you able to achieve what you wanted?
Yeah, the theme of 2025, I remember because I made a post on it, was focus. So double down on who our avatar is, who we don't want to serve, and I for sure think that we continue doing that. Like, we've learned and we've created a lot of frameworks around the kind of deals that we want to do moving forward, what kind of deals we don't want to do. We've lost a lot of money on dead investments, right? Transactions that we put through the system just to realize we don't want to do that in the future. So I would say from that end, we for sure have hit our goal.
Well, you mentioned debt investments. I personally know that you've lost like what?
Close to $100,000 in just bad deals this year.
So after losing close to $100,000 in bad deals, what keeps you going? What keeps you motivated? When a deal doesn't go your way, go through, you lose money.
What makes me okay with losing money is if there's a lesson that I can take from it. If I don't get the lesson, then to me I just get upset at myself, honestly. But if I can lose money on a deal, get the lesson, apply that moving forward, then I'm all for it, because this is how humans learn in general.
Yeah.
Like I always tell this to the team whenever somebody makes a mistake. It's okay. What did you learn from it? Okay, cool. What are you gonna do moving forward? If they can answer those two questions, then I'm good with the mistake.
So what would you say the lesson or the biggest lesson you learned from all the debt investments and I guess poor decisions you made this year?
On deal specifically, I would say understanding the amount of bandwidth, like meaning how many teammates do you have to deliver on these deals, how much cash do you have, like what kind of cash position you're in as a company, and what are your strong relationships. So too many times we got into a transaction where it required a lot of TC work, right? And at the time we only had one TC. It required a lot of cash, and as a small company, we're not sitting on a year's worth of cash, right? And perhaps we didn't even have a good, let's just say, bankruptcy attorney, right? So when you're dealing against multiple hurdles, it's hard for you to put a good deal together because there's just so much to overcome, right? So I think that and then that allowed me to just create a framework around what are the things that we could handle at our current stage as a company.
And when you say hurdles, like, tell us a little bit more about.
So every single house has hurdles, right? Some hurdles are you have to do a probate, you have to do a partition, a foreclosure, you're dealing with a bankruptcy, you're dealing against heirs that don't want to sell, right? An eviction, etc. So you want to get into deals where you don't have to overcome 10 hurdles, because those 10 hurdles might equal a year's worth of work. And realistically, if you don't have a year's worth of cash, you're getting yourself into something that you might not be around for.
Yeah.
Right? So you wanna get deals that you can handle and you've already had prior experience to handling.
All these things, all these hurdles sound really expensive. Like, can you kind of tell us what your average deal size, like what you see coming in, and then what your biggest deal of the year has been?
So our average is interesting. We've done less deals this year than we did in 2024 and in 2023, but our average deal size has been higher. Okay. Our average deal size this year has been $61,000. And I think our biggest deal of the year so far, if I'm not mistaken, between 150 and 160. I think it was like 167 if I remember correctly.
Is this Thailand?
No, Thailand is gonna be closing. That one's, I think, like 140. This was the one in Miami Gardens, the Jamaican one.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one was either 140 or 160, somewhere in that ballpark. And then what was your second question?
I asked what your average deal size and then what the biggest deal you've closed this year.
Okay, got it. So I answered both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you tell us like how much work went into over a 6-figure deal? How long it took?
Surprisingly, a lot of the bigger deals don't take as much work. So I'm thinking about it now. Our biggest deals this year, like the ones that have crossed the six-figure mark, they're a lot more straightforward.
Mm.
Just by nature, because usually what happens is, and this is right, this changes deal by deal, but this is just what I've seen on average. Somebody passes away some time ago. They have an heir that's hopefully in another country, because those are harder for you to reach, but it's also going to be harder for anybody else who's trying to get the deal to reach. There's some kind of language barrier, right? Like the Jamaican individuals or the Thailand individuals, and they really don't have any resources, right? If you're in another country, most likely, the money that you make, you wouldn't be able to put up US dollars to provide any of these services that you need. So that allows you premium power to you know pretty much charge whatever you can charge on a service.
The whole process you're explaining to me, it sounds like it's very niche. Like it sounds like it's a very specific industry. Can you tell us like how you even discovered this, how you got into it? Because I never heard of it before I met you.
Yeah, I've answered this question a couple times in recent interviews with attorneys. I've been interviewing a lot for that role, and it reminded me of how it actually got started, because you kind of the memory gets foggy, right? Yeah. But it started off when I was really struggling in wholesale, and I remember one night thinking to myself, like, because when I was a police officer, you would be the first one to find out whenever there was a shooting, a house that caught on fire, or you're pretty much the first one to find out about any incident. So I was like, man, is there a way where I can be the first to find out without being a police officer, right? Because I didn't have my radio anymore. But I thought to myself, I said, well, a lot of the things make the news, right? So, and I remember that because when my dad went to jail, that made the news. I was like, all right, well, that makes sense. Let me see if I can put this together. And I woke up immediately. I started looking for houses that had caught on fire, or like shootings, or like something like that had happened. And I found a house that caught on fire. I was able to locate where the property was at, right? And then I started working it backwards. And so that started being a marketing channel for us. We started sending in houses that would catch on fire every single day into the system, and I would be the first one to call, right? Give my condolences for if somebody passed away, or like just be there for the homeowner. A lot of times we would also send food. Like if the entire house burned down, they lost everything, like the least thing you could do is call, see if they need food for the next 2 days. So sometimes we'd send out like pollo tropical or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But we do that, and then I got my first deal from that. That turned out to be like an 80K deal, no competition. I was like, okay, I like it. Then we did another one, another close to six-figure deal. I like it. Then we stumbled on another transaction where we did make over six figures, but that particular house caught on fire, and the homeowner had passed away 6 months prior. So I ended up hiring a genealogist who located, because I could not find any relatives of that individual. He had passed away like in his 80s, and I couldn't find any relatives. But they found that he had a brother that was in his 90s living in California. And so I called him. He had no idea about the house, or that he would be entitled to it, right? So I like the fact that it was just me and this guy, no competition, no other people in his ear. Very different from wholesale. And long story short, we were able to help him and his nephew get paid for the individual's house. And I said, man, I wonder if there's more of these.
Yeah.
Right. So I can't force houses to catch on fire, but are there situations where somebody passed and the relative hasn't found out, and they're hard to locate? So I'm like, well, let me try to find more of those. And that's where I started doing more driving for dollars. And I stumbled on one, and I stumbled on a second one, where like people were just getting very hard to find. But and I remember talking to my coach at the time, telling him like, hey, there's something here. And he told me, he was like, just focus on something that you can close much faster, etc. And in my hunch, I was like, I don't know, man. I think there's something here. We have to work on it,
Yeah.
So I continued doing that, and I think this was 2024. We had made enough off of that marketing channel where it brought some attention to our finances. Like I was like, damn, this marketing channel is creating a lot more revenue than some of the other ones we had at the time.
How many were you using?
We were doing texting, cold call, the
And who's
news.
we? Like how many people were on the team at
Oh
this
my God,
point?
we had like less than a team of, it was probably like 3 or 4 of us.
Okay.
So we were definitely not, we were super distracted across multiple marketing channels. We were doing direct mail, cold call, texting, the news, and I feel like there's a fifth one in there. Whatever. Let's call it 4. We were doing 4, but this one was bringing in our second most revenue, and I wasn't really focused on it.
Mm-hmm.
So you know the
Second
story.
most?
Yeah.
So it was the first.
Cold call. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we well, you know the story. I went to Vegas, spent some time with Hermos and a couple other entrepreneurs, and he had already did a whole bunch of homework on my business prior to getting to the meeting. So as soon as he stepped inside, he opened up his binder, he took a look at all the marketing channels, and that was like the point. Like that's what he drilled on for the next hour.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
all about
Tell us
that.
like a little bit more about that experience. That's a very
Yeah.
unique experience to have as a
Yeah,
business owner.
yeah. That was a lot of fun. I worked out the day before in their facility. That was cool. And then the day of the meeting, it's me and another 7 guys. Everybody practically gets an hour with them. But you're also able to learn a lot of lessons from what he's sharing with the other
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurs,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that was cool. Then he comes into the room with a stack of binders, like just every single company, all the information, the revenue, the constraints, all of that good stuff. And he starts going one by one. He's like, all right, your name, this is your business, this is where you're at, this is what I think you're struggling with. And my advice out of all the entrepreneurs that were there was probably the simplest advice. Like I left there feeling a little stupid, to be honest. Yeah, I left there feeling like I cannot believe that this is what I had to hear. And it probably took, I would say, 48 hours for it to like really dawn on me. But as soon as I got back, I was like, man, why is it that this marketing channel is this profitable?
Mm-hmm.
Our returns
Yeah.
for every single dollar that I spent on marketing was like a 40 to 1.
Wow.
Yeah. So through the roof, like it whooped every other channel.
Yeah.
And I got back and I was like, why? And I'm like, it's a mix of the curiosity that had little by little turned into private investigation, and the fact that we were doing all the work up front,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is different from like standard wholesale companies pulling a list and then they're making calls. So it was a mix of those 2 things and understanding legal. Like at this point, I had already enough one-on-one calls with Geo and some other attorneys to learn. And then I remember getting back and I was very excited to just like fully dive into it.
Okay.
And I did. I started driving on a street and I found this deed of an individual who had passed away perhaps 20 years ago. And his kids would be entitled to 50% of a house. And I called them, right? And so I started putting it all together. I called the kids. They were not aware that they're entitled to 50% of the house. And that's when it hit me. I said, okay, the mix of finding, no competition, cold calling, which is already something we had been doing for some time, so we're good at. The mix of that, I was like, there's something here. I need to go all in on this. So that's how we came about.
And at this point, you were doing wholesale, but you were selling the houses yourself, or you
No,
use multiple real estate agents.
no. So you're talking about in 2024?
Yeah.
these bugs.
Yeah.
They like our blood. No, in 2024, yeah, we're just doing wholesale. I was always focused on the front side of the business.
Yeah.
Because if you don't acquire deals, you can't sell deals.
Yeah.
So I would just acquire them, and then I would JV with guys who were disposed, and then they would just resell the deals for me.
And then now you have a full-time.
Yeah, we had to. Last year, year 1, 2023, I think I practically partnered up with my coach, and so he would handle the disposition, and I was able to learn from him, right? But that year that we did 1.2, about 600K went out the door just in splitting with him, which super worth it. I do it all over again. But then last year, I think we ended up spending about like 350 grand in JVs. So it just made sense that if I brought somebody in house, we'd actually be able to profit more as a company, and we'd have the person actually working full time with us.
Yeah. I want to circle back to how you even started doing this. You said that there was a house that caught on fire and you located the 90-year-old brother.
Yeah.
How did you even figure out that he would be entitled to this house? Because typically you would think it goes down to like children or.
Right. I knew enough about legal to know, okay, the individual wasn't married. His wife had predeceased him. He had no kids. That means he had no grandkids, right? He was too old. His parents had already passed. So next in line would be siblings. That's how we knew that we had to locate his siblings. But to be honest, I leaned heavily on the genealogist for that.
Okay.
Because they also understand the line of succession. Yeah, a genealogist is a little different from a private investigator in that sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how did you start learning about the whole line of succession and legal? Because that itself is very different.
It's a whole other skill. Yeah. I mean, and during this season, I didn't have a direct relationship with Gio, the attorney that we used for all these years, but through Will, who did have a great relationship with Gio, I would practically ask all my questions to Will, and then he would just ask Gio, and it'll come. The answer will come back my way. So a lot of that just being like extremely annoying. A lot of times I would send Gio an email. He wouldn't respond at the time. And I would send it to Will. I'd be like, hey, Will, can you reach out to him? I really need to know this for this deal that we're working on, etc.
Will, he was
He's my coach for 14 months. Ending of 2022 till the end of 2023. So we went on a 14-month run of straight coaching, but we still did deals and business after that.
Okay, got it. And now you have a new coach.
Yeah. So after Will, I got coaching for 6 months from Tiffany and Josh. So they're out of Ohio. They're very big on like just systems, process, and like with Will, I had already crossed that 7-figure mark. So I knew that I had to implement some of the systems and process to move forward. So I got coaching from them for 6 months, and that was cool. And then after that, I think shortly after that was when I went and I revisited Alex and for the second time because I had gone to another event before that, and then I've been now for.
So you saw him twice?
Yes, I went to a workshop, a 2-day workshop, where they practically just break down how you can turn your business into an asset. Like, what are the things that go into that, which I had no idea of. I thought that was awesome. And then the second time around was when I spent the hour.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That was a big investment.
Okay.
Yeah, and then now for the past, we're already in December. It's December 1st. So
like the past year.
Yeah, practically, like 10, 11 months. I've been with Neil, and that's been awesome because he, not only has he taken a company to the size that I want to take this, right, but he's done it in our space.
Yeah.
So like when you get the best of both worlds, and on top of that, he's only had his education company for call it 2 years. Like you're getting somebody very early on. That to me is, I mean, I literally just repeated the same playbook that I ran with Will, but I'm doing it now with another coach. Yeah.
Do you recommend like coaching to
24/7 coaching
entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So I thought about this a little earlier this year, and I remember I made a post on it, but I never not want to be getting coached. So like boxers, fighters, they always have somebody in their corner, right? They're always getting coached. You never see a sports team without a coach on the sideline.
True.
So why do we, as entrepreneurs, feel like we shouldn't be getting coached 24/7? Like, are we too good? To me, I'm like, I always have blind spots, and if I can just have somebody overlooking them, I'm always making sure that I'm on my P's and Q's. To me, that makes it worth it.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and also the biggest companies in the world, they have a board of advisors. So like Facebook, who they just add to the board of advisors, Dana White. Why? Because Dana has a different perspective on things, right? And so from that angle, I never not want to be getting coached. I think I've came to the hard conclusion on that.
All right, I want to circle back to before you started with Will, your other coach, to you being $250,000 in debt.
Okay. That was around the time that I started with Will.
Okay. Yeah. So tell us how you got there. Tell us how you got out of there.
Yeah.
Let's hear both sides.
Sucking at business, number one. That's how I got there. Right? You don't end up $250,000 in debt because you know what you're doing. Like I just didn't understand anything. I didn't understand pricing. I didn't understand how to pay people. I didn't understand how to lead. I didn't understand finances. So it's a mix of things. But that's how I got into it. And then how I got out of it was I needed education. Like I was not going to be successful in this industry without borrowing from the experience of somebody who had been successful. So I had to, and it was tough because I had to pay down the financial debt, but I also had to pay down the ignorance debt because I was starting in an industry where I just wasn't good, right? And so that's one thing that I did going back to the windows and doors day. I had a mentor who taught me the entire business. So I had to run that same playbook here in order for me to have some level of success, which I did. Will, when I first started working with him, he had already been in the space for 7-8 years.
Yeah.
And he took a company to $7-8 million. So he had already accomplished a lot of things that I wanted to accomplish. So I just repeated the same playbook.
But how did you pull yourself like out? Like what steps did you take, or what, I guess, like how did you know what steps to take?
What steps to take as far as what?
As getting yourself out of debt, because at that point maybe some people might just think, okay, well, I'm too far in.
Yeah.
I'm too deep in the hole. Like how?
Yeah. To be honest, I just didn't know any better. So I wasn't going to file bankruptcy, which is an option that I guess a lot of people take. But what I did was I first called all my credit cards, right? Because I had all that debt in credit cards. So I explained to them, I said, I'm in a tough financial position, and you guys are charging me an 18% interest. I can't have that if you guys want the money back. So they locked down all the credit cards. I had no credit, but they put me on some kind of plan that I recommend that anybody who is in some kind of debt to go into, where they reduced the interest rate from like 18 to 8. I said, okay, that's huge, right? Just being open and having a conversation. And then from there, I understood that I needed cash to keep going in the business. So although I was $250,000 in debt, I had enough cash where I can reinvest it into the business, get deals, pay back some of the debt, and keep some of the cash. So I could continue to go, right? So every single time that I would close on a transaction, I would pay off, let's say, one credit card, and I would keep some cash.
Gotcha.
Right. So if I made $60K and I had $30K in debt, I would probably pay that off, keep the cash until the next deal, and then just continue doing that back and forth until I'm completely out of debt. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I don't think you knew that.
No, I actually had no idea.
Yeah.
So I guess what would your biggest piece of advice be to someone who is in debt but also wants to start a business and just doesn't know what steps to take?
Yeah. If you're in debt, I didn't know this at the time because I didn't know anybody around me who had been in some kind of debt or anybody close to me. I would view it as your ticket to have a ton of success. And I say that because a lot of especially first-time entrepreneurs, they fail, right? And what I mean by fail is they just lose it all.
Yeah.
But they gain it all back that much faster. So to me, I would try to keep, and it's hard. Like it's easy to say now, but it's hard to like actually like think that way once you're going through it. But I would try to keep the frame of a lot of other successful people have been through this, and so this is just my way of reaching success.
I love the switch of the mindset.
Yeah.
It's all about perspective.
Yeah.
What changes do you plan on making that you see having the biggest return for you this year?
Changes. We launched an offer like a month and a half ago that didn't do well, but it's practically like a VIP offer, and I would like to try that out if every like once a quarter until this works. I just don't see a world where people wouldn't want to have VIP deals. And what I mean by that is like our deals, they take long. So instead of looking at that as a negative, using that as a positive, like sell them 6 months in advance. To me, investors don't know what houses they're going to be fixing up 6 months in advance. So why not like bring that to them and see if they find that valuable? That's probably one. That way we can try to pull some more cash up front. And then the second is something that I'm playing with on the offer is, which I really like, is benefiting from both the business model that attorneys have, which attorneys do a great job of collecting cash in front, and a wholesale company. So a wholesale company makes money on the back end, they make big pops. So if there's a world where we can charge a legal fee up front and then also make that big pop at the end, I think that'll make the business a lot stronger.
So that's like a tweak you.
Yeah, that's something I'm currently working with, and
on.
we've already, like, we know that works.
Yeah.
We've already collected cash up front, which is it's not standard at all in a wholesale company.
Yeah, definitely.
It's more standard whenever somebody's using a legal firm.
Yeah. Can you circle back to the deal or offer you were trying to do and didn't work out? Like, why do you think it didn't work, and what changes are you going to make on that specific deal?
Yeah, the core offer that we launched. So practically it was access to our inventory of, call it, 30 deals, and the offer was practically that buyers would be able to pre-select their top 3 favorite deals, put $1 EMD, that way they don't have any cash tied up, because that's buyers' biggest complaint. So have them put $1 EMD to hold on to these top 3 deals that would be closing, and call it anywhere between a month to 6 months. And that came with a couple perks, but that came at an upfront cost of 40 grand. So we launched that just to get some input, and where we struggled with was that a lot of people just didn't even bother showing up to the call. So to me, this is something that the industry isn't used to, and so that just comes with a lot of skepticism. People are like, well, why am I going to show up to this?
Yeah.
Right? So it's a mix of that. It's a mix of, we don't have a ton of buyers. I think we still have less than 100 buyers in our pipeline.
Yeah.
We have to, like, add more buyers to that. And on top of that, we don't have a massive brand. We had been doing this for 30 years and we were known for great business. Then it'd be a lot easier to make a call and offer, somebody an offer like this. So
what do you think is going to help you build a brand or continue to grow it?
Time and discipline. Discipline on selling good deals. Like, if you sell a crappy deal to a buyer, right, which is our customer, and they don't make money from it, you're putting them in a tough financial position, close to like what I had been through, right? And if you do that, they're not going to come back and buy deals from you. But if, let's say that there's enough meat on the bone where they go and they make a killing, right? Like, they still have to play their part, but if they go and they make a killing, they'll remember you the next time you call them, because in their mind, they're going to think, well, crap, I just made 60 grand off of that house.
Yeah.
Why would I not pick up the phone to the guy who sold me that deal last time?
Yeah. So overall, you think something that's just going to help is time.
Yeah, time and that selling deals at perhaps a little bit less than what you could have sold them for, but just to maintain a long-term relationship that could reap the rewards down the line.
Got it. Interesting. Tell me, like, the biggest challenges you faced this year.
Cash flow. Prior to this year, I didn't really like track burn rate and runway. How much money the business burns every single month, no matter what, and how much of that cash you have sitting in your bank. But I would say, like, I put us in one tough financial position at around Q2, and then now I'm just super, like, on top of cash coming out more than anything. I know when cash comes in, because we only close let's call it 2 transactions a month, but a lot more cognizant of, like, what's going on. Yeah, I use that word correctly, right?
Yes. Yeah, a lot more cognizant of what. Yeah. No more driving blind.
Yeah, and creating frameworks, doing small little studies, right? Like, we did a study recently on the customers that we've closed on, that we want to gain. Like, we want to look for more of those kind of customers, what that kind of marketing looks like, what are the qualifiers that make those customers. And then one layer deeper is, like, what zip codes are the ones that really hit? Where does the activity come from? Another layer deeper, like, what are the framework around the deals? Back to the whole hurdles and stuff like that. Like, what are the deals and what kind of hurdles can we handle as a company currently? Yeah. Right. So I have the whole analogy of, we don't want to get into a deal that has more than 4 hurdles. I look at it as us going to the weight room, and we just don't want to be lifting 50 pounders. We want to go up to 40 pounds, knowing that like that's the weight that we can push.
That's the max.
Yeah.
Without getting hurt.
Exactly.
So how did you I guess, learn how to learn about your runway, burn rate, or how did you even know that that was an issue that you were struggling with?
Well, for one, my recommendation is if you want to be in business long term, like be a student of the game. So I just enjoy and I study this stuff, right? That's one. But I learned about it because we were tight on cash, and I had to loan the company money from my personal account.
Yeah.
And so I was like, all right, well, how can I not put us in a position like this again? Well, I need to understand what's going out no matter what every single month, and then what are the different levers that I can pull. Like this year, we pulled a good amount of leverage. You helped me a lot with that. Just having conversation with vendors. Like vendors want to keep us in business because we're their cash too. So understanding like, all right, what's the main money coming out of every single month? Attorneys.
Yeah,
All right,
for
well,
sure.
who's our biggest attorney? All right, having a conversation with them and seeing if we can structure something where perhaps they get paid 30 days after the transaction closes.
Yeah.
Right, and we did that for multiple vendors.
Yeah, I mean, our biggest expenses are PI as well.
Mm-hmm.
Did the same thing with that.
That's it.
The platform that we use to call people.
Yeah, we did a couple things that I actually want to touch on that I thought were pretty cool and they don't happen often in the industry. For one, we launched the offer. It didn't work out, but it is something different that I think will eventually work. Two, we started collecting EMD up front. Yeah. Right, so that's something that in the industry doesn't happen. But the reason why I even thought of it, I won't give myself credit, is I went to acquisition.com's headquarters, and on that 2-day workshop they talk about collecting cash up front. I'm like, well, how can we collect cash up front in our business, right? Now, there's only really two ways. You can either charge the customer,
yeah,
who doesn't have money,
yeah,
to come out of pocket, right? Somehow do that, or you have to charge the buyers, but it doesn't make sense for you to charge the buyers because they're buying a house from you. So I was like, all right, well, they do send in EMD to the title company. So what if the second that they send that in, we can just collect. We could just collect it right away instead of us having to wait 30 days, 60 days to get paid.
Yeah, is that the standard?
Right. So we started doing that. We set expectations up front with the buyers that, hey, as soon as you send EMD to the title company, they're going to release it over to us. We sign off on that in the contract. And then on the front side, try to collect some cash up front now for the legal fee. A mix of those two things is something that I think the space hasn't seen. So I just took that from like other industries and businesses. Let me see if there's something. And then that just having conversations with vendors. Like I didn't do that my first time around, but getting net 30 from them, pushing back expenses for 30 days.
Yeah,
if you have a $5,000 expense every single month, and now you get net 30 from that customer, you get to profit an extra $5,000.
Yeah,
that's for $5,000. What happens if you have a 30K vendor every single month?
Yeah.
So that the smaller you are, you need that.
Between legal and PI, it definitely hits 30.
Yeah, you gotta be able to renegotiate, get net 30 from vendors.
I mean, I think that just comes with building rapport with these people and experience too. Because I'm sure you didn't even think of these things the first time you had a business.
No, I just have a lot of conversations nowadays with chat.
Yeah.
And I'll ask chat. I'll tell them, this is what I'm struggling with. What levers can I pull?
Yeah. You feel like it's been helpful?
For sure. For sure. Yeah. And even with the selling of the deals, right? If we know that a deal is close to being able to be sold, let's sell it now. Sell 2 of them. Collect 30K EMD and collect 30K in EMDs, knowing that the transaction will close 60 days from now, but it helps.
Yeah, for sure.
That money, it helps.
All right, my final, most important, juicy question.
Ooh, okay.
How does it feel working with your girlfriend? Me. How do you like it?
It's everything I've ever wanted and more. So I thought that it was going to be exactly but it's been like that much better. So it's broke through any kind of idea that I had in my mind of what it could be.
I love it too.
Yeah, it's been fun. It feels like, I say it all the time, it feels like you're going to war with somebody. you're struggling, I'm struggling. It's like we're
Yeah.
struggling. We get to help one another
Yeah, but it
out.
helps because we can just kind of collab, or if I feel super overwhelmed, I just brain dump and you're like, okay, take these things away, focus on this, and then that's how we get things done.
Yeah, and we're also in different stages, so you're able to see things from
Yeah.
a much newer perspective.
Yeah, more innocent perspective.
Yeah, right, right, but still a different perspective, like one that I haven't had in 5 years, because you're starting on your entrepreneurship career. I just think it's cool in general.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you for yours.
Do you want to like talk about anything else?
No, we spoke on everything. Spoke on a lot of stuff.
Good.
Yeah.
Juicy.
Yeah, this is great. How long? We went for like an hour.
Yeah.
We're out.